thank all the other members that are here today. This has been a joint effort on our part in the Senate to, as the President said, take the governor's concepts of a basic grant aid number and build upon that with categorical line items that actually drive dollars to all of our students throughout the state, depending on their needs and their specific districts. So the numbers that we're submitting to you today and discussing, and again, I want to reemphasize what the President said, this is the foundation funding formula line item. This is not anything else in the Department of Education, which, as many of you know, as you read through those pages of the spreadsheet, are considerable adds to the foundation funding formula. First, we start, as the President said, building on what the Governor and the House did. The Governor, as those detailed among you may know, started with an equal yield formula, which focuses on millage, whereas the House converted that thinking to an equalized percentage. In other words, identifying a state and local share percentage, much like OSFC did at the beginning of that program well over a decade ago. We continued then with what the House did, an equalized percentage process, and we believe make it even better. The dollars per pupil in an equalized percentage formula is what drives the equation. And our proposal is $5,745 in FY14 and $5,800 in FY15. That starts the basis of the formula, which is an increase of a number than we've ever seen before in the legislature. In doing so, as the President said, this drives an additional $284 million in FY14, again, going specifically in the foundation funding formula line item to our public school districts in Ohio. That's what we're speaking of here today. And $434 million in FY15. Combining those percentages, as the President said, that's 11.1% over FY13 basic aid in the foundation formula line item. Another couple things that we want to emphasize, we continued with those adds that the Governor started in the conversation, in particular the economic disadvantage factor the Governor started with. The House improved on that, and we believe we've improved on that even more. Our focus here was comparisons to previous years and what that did or did not include in previous years, i.e. all-day kindergarten, for example, was an item that we spent a great deal of time in analyzing what this formula would do as compared to previous formulas in previous years. We then spent a great deal of time on the third grade reading guarantee. The House named this K3. I think in the description of their budget, many of you know. All in total, the legislative and administrative proposal now has $207 million in the biennium focused on the K3 initiative, i.e. promising that our third graders by the third grade have the resources they needed in all those years in our local school districts throughout the state of Ohio. We in the Senate added $54 million to that specific line item, and again, in addition to what the Governor and the House had already done. Our formula enhancements also raised the caps. The caps are where districts are able to go in terms of funding that would be driven through this formula. Our numbers were 6.25% in FY14 and 10.5% in FY15. This begins to let the formula flow, you might say, through more districts and throughout the state of Ohio. We also then, besides caps, look at the number of schools that are on the cap, because ultimately this is your glide path to the next biennium budget. I think it's something the administration talked about both in their proposal and the House proposal, but ultimately our proposal we present in our omnibus budget on Tuesday is 176 districts on the cap by FY15. And as you can see, that is probably, that is most likely a number that's on the glide path to address in the next biennium budget that the administration might present. So those are some of the major elements of this particular proposal. Again, we want to focus on, we're talking to you today about our foundation funding formula line item and those specific elements of adds to the basic opportunity grant number that I mentioned with you that we're going with in our proposal. And I'd next like to introduce Senator Gardner,